Hey, this is Mike Magrann from the band Channel3, and you're listening to the Nothing Shocking podcast. Turn it up.
Want to know what's going on in the world of music? Then tune in to the Nothing Shocking podcast, a non-genre based, all ages friendly rock and roll program. Join us weekly for interviews with all your favorite rock stars from the mainstream to the underground. You can find us at nothingshocking.libsyn.com or anywhere you download podcasts.
We're putting the band back together.
The numbers all go to 11.
I'm talking about bands that rock. Led Zeppelin. What about Sabbath? AC/DC. Motorhead.
Does that mean it's louder? Is it any louder?
Well, it's one louder, isn't it?
We're not worthy! We're not worthy!
Why don't you just make 10 louder and make 10 be the top number and make that a little louder?
These go to 11.
I get up off the ground and raise my head. Days like this, think I should be dead. One for Satan, two for me. Let's cheat the devil, it's fun, don't you agree?
Welcome to the Nothing Shocking podcast. I'm your co-host, Jeff Untied, and with me in Dog Bowl Studio is
Coach Nez.
You can find the Nothing Shocking podcast on Libsyn or any podcatchers. Like our Facebook page or follow us on X at No Shock Pod.
You can also find the Nothing Shocking podcast on Rock Rage Radio every Sunday morning at 7 a.m. Central Time. Our sponsor is Big Strix Vinyl Records and Sports Cards, located in Rock Island, Illinois. New, vintage, and previously owned. You can find it at Big Strix. We would like to thank the Hong Kong Sleepover for allowing us to use their music for our intro and bumper ending. Tonight's guest is
Mike Magrann of Channel 3.
Yeah, he's promoting his autobiography, Miles Per Gallon. What else has he got going on?
They got the Rebellion Punk Music Festival coming up in August 2026.
Hey, exciting stuff. Let's get to that interview.
All right, good night.
Good night. All right, Mike, welcome to the Nothing Shocking podcast. I'd like to introduce my co-host, Jeff Untied.
Mike, thanks for joining us tonight.
Hey, guys, I'm happy to be here. It's a real honor to be on your podcast.
We are excited to have you. So let's get right into this. Recently, you just returned from a tour of Japan. Can you talk a little bit more about this experience?
Oh, it was just fantastic. It was our lifelong dream to play in Japan. And a couple of years ago, we were invited to go along with the Avengers, who had never been there either. And we did a 2-week tour with the Avengers, and the clubs are very small there. There's some venues you show up, and maybe they can get 75 people in, and so regardless, every night was sold out. And so we thought, it was kind of overkill for both bands to be touring together. So this past October, we decided just to go, the four of us with guitars in one hand and backpack in the other, and we did the whole thing by bullet train, and it was fantastic.
Oh, nice.
So cool.
The crowds are fantastic over there.
I know you always hear about how fanatic the Japanese fans are as far as following bands, and can you talk a little bit about how many shows did you guys do? And
this last time we just did, I think it was 7 shows in 8 days, so we only had 1 day off. And especially as we get older, that's really the downside of touring is you wake up in Kyoto and you see these temples in distance and no time to go sightseeing. You have to get to the train station on to the next town. But it was just fantastic to go to some of these clubs that we returned to some of them. The first time we showed up, we thought, it'd been so long since we were introduced over there that we didn't know if people would remember us. And, there were 50-year-old men with tears in their eyes, with stacks of records for us to sign. Yeah. So it was great. And, me being half Japanese, I know some passable Japanese, so my stage banter got pretty good, so between songs I could introduce the band and talk between songs, and, they would, afterwards I'd get people coming up to me and speaking very quickly fluent Japanese. I'm like, hey, I'm just like a trained monkey. I phonetically know how to say that stuff, but just a great time.
Fantastic. Cool. We talk to a lot of artists about touring, the methodologies of touring here in the States opposed to touring over in Europe. We really haven't interviewed a whole lot of artists that toured Japan before, but as far as your history of touring with the band, can you talk about and compare and contrast the differences of touring over in Japan opposed to, I guess, maybe Europe or even in North America?
Well, I'd say, North America is probably the worst place to tour. It's, I always think about the European bands that come over here and say, okay, we're going to the United States, so we'll play in Los Angeles and New York, right? And it's like, yeah, there's a whole lot of nothing between those cities sometimes. But, of course, not like back in the day in '83 when we were jumping in the van and trying to connect those towns, out of necessity, you'd have to play, somebody's garage in Nebraska when there'd be like, 5 or 6 people. But, goddamn, those 5 or 6 people became lifelong friends, But, in Europe, it's really the prime thing to tour in summer because it's just the way most European venues, they put you up for the night. It's automatically, they feed you dinner. Next day, a lot of them bring you back and have breakfast before you take off again, give you a little care package to take for the road. So they really take care of the artist over there. And it's something that I really wish that they could start doing in North America,
Absolutely.
I also wanted to ask you, while we're on the live subject, on your Facebook page, you also had some pictures recently of a free show, Jack Kerouac Alley in San Francisco, California. Some great pictures.
Oh, yeah.
A little live clip. It looked like a fun little show. Can you talk about that experience?
Well, whenever we go to San Francisco, Vesuvio's is our first stop. And I haven't drank for about 10 years, but I still love just sitting upstairs there and seeing the San Francisco street life go by. And then, of course, across the alley is City Lights Bookstore, which is, just a historical landmark for the beat poets and ever since then. And so in the summers, they have a Wednesday night concert series in the alley that splits those two. And friends of ours were putting it on and, they just kind of asked if we'd be interested. And we were like, not a problem. We would love to do it. And it turned out to be just one of the greatest shows this summer. The handful of people that did show up to see us, and then the rest were just people walking by and like just jumping into the alley. And it really became one of those great magical nights that, you brought in new fans and you saw your old friends together. We can't wait to do it again.
Oh, so exciting. Well, let's get right into the book, Miles Per Gallon. It was released June of 2024. This book is so unique in the regards of you open the first page to it and you're telling the story of you and the rest of your bandmates driving down the road in a van, drinking beer, hopefully the cop doesn't pull you over. And, obviously the uniqueness of that 1983 tour. Talk a little bit more about, because your memory is very vivid on the events that happened in 83. How much journaling did you do while you were on the road to remember all these unique events?
Well, I just happened to bring along this journal. And so just to keep our days straight, I would just make a little notation each day of, where we played and what happened. And then as time went on, people would we'd pass it around the van and people make their own little notations in there. And it became quite the tour diary. And so, I've kind of kept that up because, when you're traveling with a band, you have just hours of doing nothing. So you're just sitting there doing it. And so to this day, I keep a kind of a blog of the band's travels as well. But, it was always the nagging thing to sit down and write a book. And I just didn't know how do you tackle your 40-year career and make it compelling. And, I know that we're a C-level band. We're not, we don't have this fantastic history and, thousands showing up every time to see us. And so I thought the story of us was a smaller thing about, how friends and fans of the music became the guys on stage. And so I just came across that journal and I thought I would just use that 3-month tour as a framing device And then within that, I could go back and tell the story of how I met Kim, my childhood friend, and growing up in the 70s when punk rock all came about. And, I wrote it more as a novel than a straight ahead memoir, and people seem to like it.
Oh, it's fantastic.
So I mean, in the book, I remember you referenced your grandma and talk, getting a chance to, back then we didn't have cell phones, so you had to get a local payphone or whatever. Can you talk about the importance of family and reaching back and talking to them when you're on the road?
Well, it was a different world. It's you think about all the phone numbers that I don't know how old you guys are, but I memorized 40 phone numbers back then, and the thought that you'd be out for the day and maybe you could make a call to your friends in the morning and say, "Well, I'll meet you later on." It seems incredible nowadays, and so we did that whole tour by payphone and borrowed credit card numbers and paper maps.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really incredible to think about how you could pull in a town and find, most of these were not established clubs, but somebody's backyard or a basement squat. And it was just a network of people that helped us out. And so those telephone booths and those borrowed credit card calling numbers were our lifeline home. Family was so important in context of all the things where we were seeing for the first time. I mean, the vastness of this country and the grittiness of the cities, and sometimes there's nothing you could do but call home and just kind of breathlessly tell them what you've seen.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, what sparked my interest in the book was, your tale as a kid, your mother dropping you off at Anaheim Stadium with you and your friends to see Aerosmith, Lynyrd Skynyrd, ZZ Top, and I think there were some other bands as well. The thing, Jeff and I were just talking about this before you called in, is that, as punk rock came to fruition in the 1970s, we also found that rock and roll genres became very snobberish. And, a punk rock kid like you, it fascinates me that, hey, you did go see Aerosmith, you did go see Lynyrd Skynyrd, you did go see ZZ Top. And, when Jeff and I were in high school in the the middle 80s, that was sacrilege. Like, if you were a punk rock kid, you did go see Aerosmith. Can you talk about like how maybe the classic rock bands influenced you as a punk rock lead singer and musician?
Oh, sure. I mean, I guess one advantage we had was there was no punk rock when we were growing up, and we grew up on AM radio and our older brothers and sisters hard rock records. And then naturally when we came to start seeing shows and all that, it was that giant corporate rock. It was something you can kind of idolize from afar, but there was no hope that you would ever get up there. But in the mid 70s, you started seeing these little cracks in the corporate structure, and you'd see bands like Cheap Trick and the Dolls and the Runaways, and they were doing something that was a little more immediate and all that. And we luckily came of age right when it was time to see some of those bands in the clubs. I mean, we saw Van Halen at the Whiskey. Before that, we saw them at a backyard party. We saw Cheap Trick open for the Runaways at Santa Monica Civic, and immediately went to the Whiskey to follow them. And so it was just the start of something kind of alternative. And then by the time the Ramones came around, it was it kind of showed you that you didn't have to be on that stage at Anaheim Stadium a mile away. You could be up close in the club with a guy playing bar chords just like you knew how to do. And I feel really fortunate that we lived in a time that bridged both of those worlds, and we were there for the kind of birth for something.
Oh, very good.
You talked about meeting Kim in third grade. That was very close to home for me. I met my best friend in second grade, and but talk about that, touring in a van, and you're either going to be, band of brothers by the time you're done with this thing, or you're going to all hate each other by the time this is all done. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Kim and I meeting each other at 9 years old, and we're still, we still talk every single day. I'm heading out to practice in a couple hours. And we've been the constant in the band because, I tell people, you can teach anybody to play drums or bass, but you can't teach them how to be, a cool guy to sit next to in a van for a 10-hour drive. And so, that friendship has always been a precious thing to us. would we still be friends at 65 years old? Who knows? But this band has been like the curse and blessing that has kept us both together. But the main thing was to have a partner growing up against those times, and somebody you could share the music, the new music coming out, to learn how to play guitar with, and we didn't have to be isolated when we got up there and looked like fools and tried to play guitar together. We always had somebody else to lean back on, so it's been a blessing.
Oh, absolutely. And you also spoke candidly in the book about your hectic life as a college student, trying to go to school and then trying to drive back home to practice and then gig, and you felt like you were burning the candle at both ends. Take us back and our listeners back to that portion of your life where you're trying to go to school, you're trying to make this band relevant, you're practicing, you're going to gigs, and there's just no downtime for you.
Well, that's the best thing to be when you're young, is constantly busy, right? And so I had a pretty lax college schedule most of the time, and so that was kind of just an afterthought. But the band had to squeeze that touring in on semester breaks and on those summers before we graduated. And, it was just a great time to be out there because everybody was learning, not just at school, but, you're learning your craft in punk rock, and the promoters were learning how to throw shows, and everybody was learning this new language of the street. So it was a very exciting time.
Oh, excellent. Can you talk a little bit about, some of the other bands maybe you played with on that tour, maybe bonds that you might have, or maybe you guys didn't grow bonds with some of the other bands? How did it work?
Well, it's just an incredible place that we grew up within 10 square miles of every single Southern California band, from TSOL and Adolescence and Agent Orange. We were all just kids playing at garage parties and then the small clubs. But then when we hit the road, back then it was such an isolated scene in each city that there'd be that core group, that core band that was kind of, running things that could help you out. So we were lucky enough to, in every city, really run into the main shot callers. So, going into Texas, we were just staying with the big boys the whole time. We went through Texas on the first tour that Husker Du was down as well. So, those shows, Husker Du and us, and then we going through the South, you beat the Sluts down in New Orleans, also see the Dicks in Texas, and up the Seaboard and all the New York bands, Kraut and the Misfits, all those guys, and then going up through Canada, SNFU, and going through Chicago, Articles of Faith and FGs. I look back on it and it's like, I'm just sitting here name dropping like a madman, but back then you didn't think about that. I mean, nobody thought, this is a legendary band. It was just the guy who had a couch that you could crash out on, and who would help you out with the show and aim you to the next city. So really great time to be out there. And it's funny when we see all those old bands now, we bump into a band on the road, and it's like, what happened? We're old men now, and we're not trying to see if anybody is holding drugs. We're showing pictures of our grandchildren now, so it's a different interaction.
For sure. We're going to go back to 1982. Channel 3 released the band's first full-length album, Fear of Life, on Posh Boy Records. And then I guess this is like a 2 or 3 part question, but it was renamed I've Got a Gun in the UK. And I guess you can answer that question too, but can you talk a little bit more about the writing and recording of that debut album? And, my favorite track on that album has always been Catholic Boy.
Oh, right on.
Yeah.
We just on a lark, we were just a backyard party band playing Clash and Ramones covers, and we just started writing a few of our own songs, and just for our own amusement, we went into a studio. We recorded 5 songs as a demo, and without thinking about sending it out to people, a friend of a friend got it into the hands of Robbie Fields, Posh Boy, who was coming off of, the Rodney on the Rock compilations and the TSOL EP. So he was really a powerhouse label at that time. And he came to our garage and signed us on the spot. It was just like in a cheesy movie, He pulled out a contract and we signed to make an EP and a couple albums for him. We went in the studio and we whipped out the 5-song EP in 3 or 4 hours and sat back, and it took off. And he invited us back into the studio to make a full length. So using some of those EP songs, and that's when we made Catholic Boy and Wonder Why and Make Feel Cheap. Fleshed that out to a full length album. It was months after that, and he forgot to tell us that he licensed that to No Future, which was the powerhouse kind of oi label over in England. And we just happened to see some promotional posters saying, Channel 3 with their new album Got a Gun. And he said, oh yeah, I happened to license that to No Future, which we were really the only American band that had a release on that label. And it confused a lot of people. A lot of people still think that we're a UK band because of that. But it's funny because we didn't even get over to the UK until 2002 to play. So we kind of kept that mystery alive. Yeah. So we were kind of fortunate to have the twin release on both sides of the Atlantic, and the records did pretty well.
Well, that's such a cool story. But what was the ideology about changing the title of that album over in the UK? Was there an explanation for it?
No, I think that they saw the Fear of Life kind of, artsy crafty logo, and then there was that horrendously goofy picture of us in the back. And so in their wisdom, I think they just thought, no, we're going to license this as a hardcore record. And, we don't need to see that these goofballs from Southern California are there. They can just imagine these guys are, bristles and studs. So, it all worked out because the record did quite well, and got the attention of John Peel at BBC, and he kind of championed us for a while, and it all came together.
Oh, so cool. Well, soon after Fear of Life was released, the band released After Lights Go Out in 1983, and The Last Time I Drank in 1985. Can you compare and contrast the creative aspects of those albums and to the band's debut album, Fear of Life? And obviously, The Last Time I Drank was more of a polished sound for the band. Original Sins is just a phenomenal track, but I guess, can you answer all that in one? Sorry about that.
Yeah, well, we did the After Lights Go Out record. That kind of fulfilled our contract with Posh Boy, but it was the same old story that, when you go in and do your follow-up record, you've got, 6 months to write and record the songs, where your first record you had a lifetime.
Right.
And, there's some great songs on that record. It sounds a little thin to me still, but it was kind of our sign off on really being hardcore, because it was just, you look back and it was a really brief shining moment that hardcore was just exploding in Southern California before the violence and the riots came in. And when we got back from that 83 tour, it was really disheartening. I mean, seriously, 4 out of 5 shows would be canceled because of the violence. They had kind of like street gangs popping up, and people were kind of drifting away. The original punks, the more artistic minded, the people that had thoughts of melody and all that were kind of erased by just this need for speed and brute violence. And, like a lot of bands, we kind of drifted away from that. And when we went to Enigma, they encouraged us to branch out. And for better or worse, we took a lot of time and we made that record, which was, really overly polished compared to the early Posh Boy releases. There are some great songs on it, but then, you have the super polished packaging and the goofy photos, and people just saw that and just kind of wrote us off. kind of funny because now we get people all the time going, hey, I need to get a copy of that record. I'm like, you fuckers, where were you back then? You're spitting on us. So actually this spring of 2026, I'm in edits for my second book, which talks about the whole, hair growing out and sellout phase. And the book will be out in the spring, as well as the reissue of The Last Time I Drank record. So we'll delve into those chapters then.
Oh, as you reflect on Last Time I Drank, and obviously it was people were critical of you and the band, but sure. for you and the rest of the band, on a satisfactory level, how satisfied were you with the end product of that album? I mean, obviously it was a different sound for you guys, but were you satisfied with the direction that it went and how it all came out, the finished product of it all?
Well, yeah, I think you have to take it in context, because back then, mid 80s, and we were aiming for, I don't know what, the alarm anthemic rock and roll thing. And so the album sounds phenomenal. And I'd say, 3/4 of the songs are good. But of course, now, looking back, it's like, yeah, do we need an Aerosmith cover on there? And, do we need to push the cowboy boots and Hairspray quite so much? The songs themselves probably could have stood on their own a little bit better without that extra baggage. But, it's funny because some bands refuse to talk about that chapter in their history. But we're like, you know what? We had a blast when we were doing that. And we still play like half those songs in our sets whenever it occurs to us. We play them, people hear Last Time I Drank say, man, that sounds like a Clash song. It's like, yeah, it kind of was before we decided to put on 17 guitars and overproduce it.
Very good.
Well, I want to talk a little bit. I'm going to skip forward a little bit. I think your next album was Rejected in 1989, but you had a live album in 1994. How do you open the damn thing? Live 94. Can you talk a little bit about the band's, is that your first live album? And
that was a very funny live album. The Rejected album, it was seriously all the rejected demo tapes, because after Last Time I Drank, we had this high-powered management that said, okay, you guys are going to make demos until you get a major label. And making demos like that, they're kind of like, okay, those 4 songs, don't hear a single, let's go back and do it. And so we were kind of stuck in that cycle. So after the band had kind of went underground, we never really broke up and said we quit, but we kind of all drifted off in our same different directions. The Rejected album came out, and not long after that, Kim and I decided to go on vacation in Germany, because I think it was Lufthansa were doing a new route, and they had like $190 flights to Dusseldorf. And Jay Lansford, our producer bass player, was living in Hanover, Germany then. And so we said, hey, we're going to come over to Germany and visit you just on vacation. And a week later, he said, you know what? I got an idea. Why don't you guys record a live album over here, and that'll pay for your vacation? And we're like, well, yeah, but the band's not going. He said, no, I'll get a band. So Jay rehearsed a pickup band that we met at Soundcheck that day, ran through the set once, and then that same night, they recorded it for that live record. And, that live record is smoking. Those guys are great musicians that we've stayed in contact with since, but it just came out very strangely that that's the way we got around to finally making a live record.
That is so cool.
Yeah.
Put 'Em Up was the band's last full-length album that was released back in 2017.
Great
yeah, fantastic album. Can you talk a little about?
Thank you.
Yeah, can you talk a little bit more about the creation, the songwriting, the recording of that cool album? And I would like you also to touch upon Blue Skies, because that is such a unique song. Can you just answer all that I just threw at you at one time?
Well, I'll have to back you up one, because we did have a release before Put 'Em Up, which was called Home for the Homeless. And again, it was a collection of demo tapes and singles, because when we hit the digital age, we're like, you know what? All you need to do is write one song and make a video for it. That's all people want nowadays. So we had a collection of 3 songs here, 4 songs there, 5 songs there. And that came together as another kind of collection. But you're right, that it was the first directed, let's go in there and record an album that we did for Put 'Em Up. And our old producer Jay came back from Germany. He said, let's do this project. We're going to sit down, write the songs, record the songs. It's going to be cohesive, not collections, this and that. And so we got together and did it with our new drummer Nick Manning. Our bass player Anthony Thompson been with us for a while, and we kind of woodshedded those songs within 2.5 weeks. Yeah, getting the grooves together, and then I was frantically writing the lyrics and record the basic tracks in just a couple of days, and it was on the overdubs. But we did end up short of a track, and so we're kind of like looking around, and it was Jay who said, the song Blue Skies? I'm like, the old, jazzy number? He said, oh, yeah. And he had an idea to do a take on that. And we're like, okay, I guess. And we kind of recorded it without knowing how to do it, vocally. I said, I don't have a slightest on what I'm supposed to do here. And so we did a few different takes here and there. And sure enough, we found some way to kind of make it all come together. So I like to think that we always have a weird track on every record that either people hate or people think it's, a kick, and that became the one.
That is such a cool track. A phenomenal album, by the way.
Well, thank you. It kind of came and went under the radar, but those songs are coming up again. The actual title track, Put 'Em Up, which we kind of wrote because we looked around and that was Trump's first term, and we're like, where the fuck are the new protest songs? I mean, all it was, hey, let's get rid of Alexander Haig and Reagan back in the 80s. And like, what's going on here? And so that was kind of our updated protest song. So we've been playing that live on most of our shows now, and really kind of charged up. So we're happy with that.
Excellent.
Well, one that I really liked today that I listened to twice in a row was 2019's The Bellwether EP.
Yeah.
I really like that title track, and can you talk a little bit about that EP?
Yeah, we just, I think it was because Hostage Records here, a local record company that we've been working with almost exclusively since then, they came to us and asked if we had some sort of release for Record Store Day. When that was a big thing to put out a unique single, and so we said, okay, we'll write a song for a single, and then we ended up with 4 songs right off the bat, and so they said, well, go ahead and make an EP. And we've always loved the Plimsolls. They were like one of the bands that we grew up just falling around to frat parties and garage parties and clubs, and so we did one of their tracks as well, and came out with 5 songs on that Bellwether EP. It was just one of those releases that just came together so quickly, and it was just a joy to record, and it was a great little record.
Well, how does it work for the band now? I mean, if you guys were back in the old days, you'd been in the studio a lot, and then a lot of bands now are sharing tracks and sending them over the airwaves. How does it work for Channel 3?
Right. We make it a point to still go into a studio. The home stuff is so good now, and of course, we've done some demos on GarageBand and all that, but I think it's important to still, get your chops together so you're not wasting a bunch of time, and then go down, load into a studio, because it's just that vibe, it's just that, a studio is like a cathedral to me, man. It's like you're here to create something, and it's so exciting because you don't know what you're going to end up with by the end of the night. So we love to go into a real recording studio. We did. I don't know if you guys got a copy. I'll send you, but we also did a 40-year retrospective release that I think was 27 tracks on two sides of vinyl, and it was kind of a collection from our very first demos all the way up to that Bellwether release. And so that was the last thing we released, and who knows? Might be the last thing we ever do.
Well, let's hope not.
I know. Let's hope not.
Well, in this part of your career, you're a singer, songwriter, guitarist. Now you're a novelist. I guess, where do you rank yourself now as far as when it comes to those titles? Is it the songwriting first? Is it the singer, the guitar player? I guess, this part of your career, what comes first?
I'd have to honestly say that writing is it's fulfilling for me, and it's pretty easy to pull out your laptop and type away. It's not quite the same as hitting the road and trying to hydrate and pull your voice together as an old timer to do 12 shows in a row. So at this point, I think the writing's kind of taken an importance for me, just because I kind of want to get the history of the band. I have one more book left on the band to get done before the Alzheimer's kicks in and all that kind of stuff. But it's funny because I always say, everybody wants to be the singer or drummer when you're young, but as you get older, it's like those are the two worst fucking jobs when you're in a punk rock band. It's like, God damn it, why'd I have to be the fucking singer,
Yeah.
Very good.
On Facebook, I saw you guys are coming up this year, the Rebellion Punk Music Festival. Can you talk a little bit about what can fans expect at a punk music festival in today's culture?
Oh my gosh, have you guys ever been to Rebellion?
No.
Oh, it's fantastic. This is probably our 8th return there.
Okay.
We started playing was in Morecambe, another seaside town, before they moved to Blackpool. And Blackpool is kind of like this wacky tacky Atlantic City of England up in the north. And you come into Blackpool and this whole festival is under one roof. It's kind of hard to explain because, most of our North American festivals are outdoors in 3 different stages, but it's as if somebody took a shopping mall and made, a 4,000 seat arena at one side, and then there's clubs in between and art galleries, cafes, and all that. So it's really become the international punk convention. So whenever we plan a European tour, we try to anchor it on Rebellion to either start or end the tour there. We have our family and friends come out and meet us. It's just a great time, 4 days. But the Punk Rock Fest phenomenon's been wild. I mean, a godsend for us old timers, because I remember we did a week on the Warp Tour. I don't know when it was, when the Warp Tour was going on, and they invited all these old school bands out together. And for a week, it was DOA, UK Subs, us, the Addicts. And we were like, this is a blast. I mean, catered meals 3 times a day. We're done playing by 5 p.m. Let's have some more of this, please. Yeah. And these big festivals, I know some fans don't like them because, you get to see your band play for 25 or 30 minutes. Right. And it has a bit of that corporate packaging, stink to it. But for us, at this point of our careers, our main goal is to play in front of as many faces as possible. So we're really honored that a lot of these festivals invite us out to see it. And it's just so weird that so many old school bands are playing, and these kids have an interest in seeing us. So we're very fortunate that people will invite us out to play, and people will come out to see us.
For sure. Well, we got one last question for you, then we'll leave you alone for the evening.
Righty.
I wanted to talk to you a little bit about, the physical product of music. This era of technology, it's just the physical product is not once what it was, of the abundance, I should say. And, the one thing about punk rock was like, it was tape trading, and it was 7 inches, and it just, there's so much cool stuff that was once out there. And, that, I think that's, one thing that's missing in punk rock now. The artists are still trying to do that, but let's face it, it's not that easy.
Sure.
For you, the artist, but yet you, the fan, do you ever see down the line where, especially in punk rock, where the physical product will capture the popular culture once again and it'd be out there in abundance, or has technology just taken that over and we're never going to see it ever again like it was?
Yeah, that's interesting because, for me as a punk rocker, when Napster came out, I thought it was victory for our side, because fuck those record companies. It's astounding when you think back on those major labels. And, it's kind of what I'm writing about in this new book. It's like, it was the goal for every band to get signed to a major label. And their contracts were no better than slavery. Maybe 0.5% of those bands would ever achieve any kind of autonomy. Every other band that we ever knew signed a major label was just stuck in this, recouped losses and lawsuits and a very bad thing. So, when internet came along, destroyed those record companies, I cheered, for one. And, and for us to have our music worldwide, we go into town and some kids never heard of us, and they can do their homework on the way to gig. That's all great. But on the flip side, I do have faith that there's some generation that's going to throw down these phones, and see it for what bullshit it is. And they're going to want a landline. They're going to want to start writing letters to each other again. It'd be the ultimate, rebel move is to start sending telegrams to your friends and, insist on a landline, right? And,
Right.
Let's go back to, there's always this whole vinyl and even cassette underground. And I think that people will go back to finding the value of buying that album and having to not just slip through 15 seconds of a song before hitting that next button. So I have faith that the physical product and the value of that product, the sharing of those things will come back again. Fingers crossed.
Thank God, because you're about the only person that's ever said you're optimistic on it. So very good.
We are too.
Like I said, we're out of our allotted time for the evening. Is there anything that we left off tonight that you would like to plug or promote?
Not at all. I just like to remind people to keep their eyes open for the new book and the Last Time I Drank release coming out in spring. We'll have some tour dates coming up in the New Year's, but we're doing one last show with our old pal, The Adolescents, locally here in Long Beach, and then that wraps up a busy year for us. But I just want to say it was a pleasure talking to you guys, man. Really enjoy your podcast and hope you guys keep doing it on your side as well.
Well, thank you so much. It's been an honor to have you.
It's been a lot of fun.
So this is how it's going to work out. Jeff, the editing wizard over here, will get all of our boogers cleaned up and we'll sound like $1 million. And then once it's all ready to go, can just text you to the link when it's ready. Would that be okay?
Sure. And, we'll splash across our socials. That'd be great.
Fantastic.
Where are you guys located?
Yeah, we're in the Quad Cities. We're right on the Mississippi River between Iowa and Illinois. Right down.
Oh, right on.
Right in the middle of the country.
Yeah, you're probably heard of Davenport, Iowa before, correct?
Oh, sure.
Yeah, so we're right across the river from Davenport. Yeah.
Well, that's cool.
Yeah, man.
You guys have any shows going on in your hometown?
So we have a couple of different facilities that have reopened again. So, Jeff and I about a month and a half ago we went to see Jerry Cantrell of Alice in Chains, and I know Death Angel's playing here next weekend, and we have a place called Rock Island Brewing Company, Ribco, which was a hub of, it was kind of like our CBGB's type of thing. And it closed down.
Oh.
Well, we had an investor come in, and he's going to reopen it back up again. And so, we've seen, Corrosion of Conformity down there, DRI. I mean, punk bands, just amazing bands down there. Oh, we saw, who did we see the last show there before they shut the doors down?
Awesome.
Yeah, so we see Reverend Horton Heat there and Fishbone and you name it. Oh, the Queers. The Queers were the last band to play down there before they shut the doors. So, yeah, I mean, it's been,
awesome.
It's been that place was a blessing, and we're just so happy after, was it 2 years now, the reopening and new ownership. And
man, I would love to get down to your area and play a show, man. The unfortunate thing is, our days of getting in the van for a couple months are behind us. So most of our touring are flyouts now. So we'll fly the East Coast and go up and down for 4 days, or fly to the Midwest, and it's always Chicago, Minneapolis. But I keep trying to talk these guys into getting back in the van and hitting the real America, but I don't have any takers quite yet.
Well, there's a place over on the Iowa side called the Raccoon Motel, and I actually saw Black Flag there last year.
Oh, awesome!
Yeah, so hey, there's an audience here for you guys if you want to explore it. Yeah. Definitely, yeah.
Was that Black Flag with Mike Valley or the new kids?
Mike Valley, yeah. Yep.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So it was.
I'm really curious to see this new lineup with the kids. I'll tell you one thing about Greg Ginn is he does not do anything the easy way, man. I mean, you think about it, he could put together Black Flag, with everybody still alive,
Right.
And
right.
probably do the Misfits arena thing. But he just trolls people with the way he just fucks with that lineup and everybody. It's an ultimate punk rock move, man.
Yeah, the funny thing about it was that night we went to go see him. I stood there, I was talking to him. I said, "Hey, why don't you come on our podcast?" And he goes, "Man, I haven't done an interview in 30 years. I'm not doing it." I'm like, "Oh." So I said, "So be it." But Mike, it was an honor. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
Hey, thanks, guy. I had a great time chatting.
It's been fun.
All right.
Thank you. Have a good night.
See you, brothers.
Bye.
Bye.
Everybody hides at home inside their nest of snakes. Everybody grinds the stone and makes their own mistakes. Hide in the headlights, fight the grip of fear. You can make your dreams come true, but you just can't do it here. Hey! Everybody eyes the gun and screams inside their head. Everybody bites their tongue and pays their bills instead. Hide in the spotlights, fight the grip of death. You can have the air you need, but you best not take one breath. Hey! Roll the dice. Take your chances. Everybody knows the game is fixed, there is no prize. Everybody pulls the plug and says their last goodbyes. Move to the sunshine, fight the grip of nights. If they ever take from you, then you